UNPAVED, Sean Salisbury here. We're bringing authentic, real stuff to you. Hardcore opinion.
Sean Salisbury, a great NFL analyst, a former NFL quarterback.
To me, Tom Brady is the GOAT because he's done more with less than any player at that position we've ever had.
All right, welcome into UNPAVED. I'm Sean Salisbury. It's great to be with you. Adam Sager will be along shortly, but it's always a special treat for me. But first off, let me say, when you see that promo, the opening of the show, and you see that was ESPN, that was Sean playing, which was In Shape Sean. Then it got to the fat with an F, Sean Salisbury. Now I'm back to fat with a PH. Are we still saying that? It is UNPAVED. We got a special show today. Obviously, Super Bowl around the corner. We will break that down with some X's and O's and matchups, but hardcore opinion a little bit later on today and tomorrow. But it's a special treat because my next guest is 30 years now as the lead dog on College Game Day. I think he's the voice of college football, and I'm sure you guys do too. He also does the primetime game with Chris Fowler, and he does Thursday nights with Al Michaels. You think it's a good gig, but there's a price to pay for that gig with travel. I welcome in award-winning. Well, there's so much. I could go through the bio in the interview video. Bring in Kirk Herbstreit from ESPN, ABC, and Prime joins us. My man, as if you didn't have enough to do. So what time, first of all, welcome in, does the 777 jumbo jet with a king-size bed and a full bar leave with your dog who's got a cockpit seat with the pilots? It's such a great gig. I know how hard you work, but what time does that flight leave out to San Francisco where the red carpet and flowers thrown down for you? Come out.
It's great to be with you. That was crazy to see all that. That was a really well done opening.
Memories, huh?
Yeah, I was sitting there watching you, and like you went through that as a player, you know, in college and Vikings, and then at ESPN. And congrats on everything you're doing, man. I mean, you know what? Life is about trial and tribulations, and you are a great example of taking some shots and I really applaud you for that, because I feel like in our world today, raising 4 sons, I really try my hardest to convey that life is unfair, life is hard, you know, and sometimes you can control that, you bring it on yourself, and you got to kind of recalibrate and get ready to go from there. And other times it's not your fault. And you can't sit in the corner, you know, and sulk and feel bad for yourself. You can maybe do that for a little bit of time. And hopefully you got a circle of friends, you got faith, you have people that really care about you to kind of pick you back up and kind of get back where you become a better version of maybe who you were. And so I know I tell you that every time I'm on with you, but just really cool to see what you're doing and the growth and the way you continue to have success. But I'm leaving at 10 o'clock. The only red carpet that's rolled out is for Peter, my dog, legitimately.
Right.
But yeah, we leave at 10. We you know, I've got a few things I've got to do, and then I always fly back really early Sunday morning just to be able to be home, watch the game with my family, and my sons have some buddies over, and we just kind of hang out, eat queso, and just be fans. It's a blast.
First of all, thank you for the compliment. Growth matters, whether it's self-inflicted mistakes, and I feel better now than I have in a long time. I'm just being on every day with you guys.
You look great. You look great.
Thank you, brother. Grinder, you know me, bro. Yeah. I'm gonna fight. Fight, but it's life's good, man, and you learn, and I'm better for it. So yeah, it's great to have you on. And by the way, when you go through TSA today, oh, that's right. You don't have to go through TSA. So tell those guys they can hold the damn plane. I'm keeping Herbstreit on for 3 hours today. It's going to be a Joe Rogan, Donald Trump interview. But I appreciate you, man. I know you
Yeah.
got so much to do, but thank you. And well,
Yeah.
let me speak of 2 things about what you just said. One is with your 4 boys, and I feel like you've allowed us into your life with them, but still keeping that part of it private with your family and your dogs and your kids, and watching their growth from the time they were towheads sitting on the set with you and Corso, and now they've grown into grown men and playing and doing great things. How hard has it been to allow them to fail in sports and in life? And I would imagine it's emotional because there's a price to pay for all your travel. Yet you've been able to balance it. How has that worked out for you?
Well, I've had 4 sons, and I think probably, I don't know if you experienced this or not, but when you have a son and he's a little baby and you picture him, whatever they're going to do, you're really excited, especially being a sports guy, to get the baseball glove out when they get to be about 3 or 4, and the golf club's out and a football out and all that. And you hope that they go that way because, you know, that was your world. And when they do go that way, I did an interview recently with Greg Olson, and I call it the Earl Wood syndrome of parenting. And Earl Wood syndrome is my generation, your generation. And it's like we saw Tiger Woods when he was 3 years old on Merv Griffin or Johnny Carson, whatever show it was, with Tiger with his dad, and he's hitting a golf ball. No one knew he was going to become Tiger Woods. And he became Tiger Woods. And that interview was from 20 years earlier. And everyone looked at that was my age and thought, that's what I got to do. You know, we got to really specialize and work. And if I spend a ton of time with him, he's going to become Tiger Woods of baseball or basketball or football, whatever it is. And I think it became a psychotic way of raising kids. My dad, who played at Ohio State, he was a captain. He coached with Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler. He didn't know if I was in the yard or not. Like, that was my thing. Like, I loved it. We were out in the backyard playing Kill the Man. During the winter in Ohio, we're playing hockey in the street, basketball. Oh, spring's here. Time to get the wiffle ball bats. It was just the way we lived in the 70s. And I didn't have a specialized coach. I didn't have a hitting coach. I didn't have a speed coach. I didn't have a quarterback coach showing me. I didn't have any of that, just like you didn't have any of that. But we flourished because we were in the yard playing. Well, when we had kids, I think dads became really, really passionate about hands-on and really making sure their kid, no, you get your elbow up. And how many times we talk, like, just psychotic way. And sometimes they were on the A team and 11-year-old travel baseball. And I was guilty of that. I was guilty of keeping up with the Joneses. And I had identical twins to start. And one time they were about 10 or 11. And I was really getting into, like, trying to help them understand how to hit. And I saw their faces and it just hit me. Thank goodness. Like, oh my gosh, like they're resenting me. They're not having fun. They're doing this because of me. And it hit me. And I went down on one knee and I looked them in the eye, and I had tears coming down my face. And I told them how sorry I was that I was doing that to them. And from that point on, I'm super competitive like you, to pull back. And if I saw something that I wanted to correct, it was really a balancing act for me to want to help, but not be like, what are you doing? You know, like that kind of guy. And so that was a very big challenge for me. I always talk about this, not like how to, but I learned through trial and error. I made a ton of mistakes as a dad. And by my 4th one, I just kind of let him do his own thing. And he's probably the one that probably got through his childhood the cleanest, as far as, you know, not having a dad hovering over top of him and trying to help him. And it always came from a good place, but I just allowed my own competitive spirit, my own desires for my sons, to get in the way of what they wanted to do. And I'm thankful I had 4 so I can learn along the way. But I'm very passionate about this subject because I think youth sports right now, it's an epidemic, whether you're in California or Houston or Nashville or Maine or Florida. I think there's too much specialization in one sport at a young age. I think, kids are playing 85 games in travel baseball at age 10. and they're burnt out by the time they get to high school. Their Tommy John surgery is like up 500% from where we were 10 years ago. So I feel bad. I think it's a moneymaker. Grandma comes to the game and she's got to pay $40, for a ticket to the weekend tournament. It's like, what are we doing? And none of it's about development. None of it's about learning about the game. None of it's about getting fundamentally sound or falling in love with it. It's about how good can you be? We were 32 and 1 last year in 9-year-old baseball. It's like, who gives a shit? Really? Like, who cares? Right. Look at all these rings we won. It's like, so very, very passionate about it. I think it's a problem. And I think we all have to try to, those of us who've been through it, made mistakes, we have to try to help that next wave of parents to try to, it's a challenge because you have that, I want to keep up, this guy got that bat, or this guy got these cleats, or this guy, man, we got to do, like, if I don't give my son this, then we're getting left behind, or we didn't make that team. Oh my gosh, we got to make that team. And it's a real problem right now, I think, for parents. And I would just tell you, don't stress out about it. The ones that are good are going to be good no matter what you do. And the ones that love it, because they're like my youngest, when he was in high school, it'd be 10 o'clock at night. He's a senior in high school. It's 38 degrees out. It's at week 9 of his season, played at St. X, a program in Cincinnati. I'd ask my wife, I'm getting ready to go to bed. I'm like, where's Chase? She's like, I don't, is he upstairs doing homework? I go up there. No, look outside. It's dark out. He's got floodlights on. He's out there at a net on his own, like doing this rotational throwing, working on his, his hips and all this stuff.
Firing that right side and clearing.
Yeah. I wasn't out there. I didn't know anything about it, but he got with a guy and has been working on it on his own. And he's now at University of Michigan as a quarterback, and he loves it, and now he'll call. My wife and I were in bed, and now instead of being in the front yard with the floodlights on, he's in the indoor at University of Michigan's facility by himself at 10 o'clock at night throwing. But that's his wiring. That's him. I did nothing for him in that regard. So I think just let go and trust it would be my advice for young dads right now.
Kirk, obviously a great career, and I know it's not one of those, a pat on the back, but what's it like? Because I can remember when all the years I did my golf tournament, every year I'd invite you and say, I'm not a celebrity. I'm like, dude, people there want to see you.
Yeah.
And you've always had that same approach for 30 years. That has not changed. And I love that about you, but I also want to knock you over the head because I say, yeah, you can raise more money for charity because your body there brings in 25 grand for a foursome. But you have always approached it humbly. What's it like, though, to be Kirk Herbstreit's kids and wife? Well, what's that like for them? Have they ever looked at you and said, Dad, this is hard, or man, I'm so proud? What's that feeling like? And what's it like for them?
That's a great question. No one's really ever asked me that. I've done I think as good a job as I can, being from the Midwest, grinder, always had to kind of earn my way. I raised my kids that way. I would watch the generation around them with entitlement and disrespect, and I don't want to say I took it out on my kids, but I was very, very big on humility and hard work and being respectful to your elders, whether it's a teacher or a coach. Any of my friends. And I was dad. I was never Kirk Herbstreit. It was almost like I play a character. The way I'm dressed right now is how I'm dressed 52 weeks out of the year, unless I am on TV. This is it. I mean, I'm in a hat. I'm in a usually a hoodie or a half zip. And that's all they ever came around. So the way my wife and I treated our personal life was, we were just, we'd get on our bikes, we'd ride our bikes through the neighborhood. We would just try to be as normal as we can be and try to kind of pound into them. Just because we live in the public eye, we're just normal people trying to make our way. And just because people, you're going to have to identify it. And I really think, and you probably experienced this, kids that either want to be their friend because of who they are or don't like them because of who they are. They went through all of that their whole lives. And I was just always there, the same guy every single day. If they did things right, I encouraged them and loved them and showed them, especially early ages, about, man, I never just got on them. I was massive into celebrating if they held a door for somebody, or if the waiter came and they looked them in the eye and they did a nice job ordering when they were 7 or 8 years old, and they were respectful and they said thank you, man, I would just like go crazy and celebrate. I'm so proud of you guys, man. So I wasn't just like this like iron fist. I was probably 90% of the time trying to like tell them how great a job they were doing, not in so much in the sports world, but just as people. So they really learned about I think the things that are important in life. And then I moved them to Nashville, and they went to a Christian school in elementary school, which I thought was very big, feeding into them. They went to Montgomery Bell Academy, 3 of them did, where they learned about the values of respect. And, I'm not, again, it's not perfect, but I think nothing makes me happier, just happened the other day, than when people say when I'm not around, now that they're in their 20s, man, I bumped into your son. Just want to tell you, what a just a great young man, and that brings a tear to my eye. Just hearing that brings a tear to my eye, because you work, that's an everyday battle as a parent when they're, again, going back to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And if you do it right, I feel like at those ages, when they get into those dreaded teenage years, the foundation's already been set, and it makes it, in our case with 4 of them, much easier. But it'd be fun if you asked my 4 boys this question to see what you'd get. But I think they would find that we've lived a very kind of normal, what we would call normal life. And I got buddies that come in and, they bust each other's chops. And I'm very, very blessed. I mean, I just put it to you that way.
Well, you know what we should do at some point in time? Sit you and your 4 boys down.
Yeah.
And honestly, come to you and do a round table and roll a camera and have some fun with it.
Great.
That would be a blast, wouldn't it?
That would
Just
be amazing.
promise me now that I brought it up, you don't give that to somebody else. That's my baby. Fair enough. I'll come to you. I'll come to you. Hey, I've never asked you, and I've never heard. I know you love those animals and dogs, and I get it. So do I. Have 3. I'm surprised they're not yelling and screaming and barking right now, that they love college game day as well. But I'm actually, it's shameful that I've never even asked you about this, because we get caught up in golf and all of our work and family. Aside from your dogs and your job and your kids, what's your hobby? What do you do? Speaking of which, there you go. I love it.
Yeah.
There you go. Speaking, so what's your hobby? Is it golf? Or are you getting into it? What do you do?
I struggle.
That's not work and family. Yeah.
I struggle with it a lot.
Don't you need one? Don't you feel like you should have that outlet?
I really do. My dogs are a big part of my hobby. Walking in the woods is a massive thing for me. It's almost like church for me.
Right.
I just kind of, me and my 4 dogs, we have a great woods here in Nashville. It's about 6 or 7 miles. You can go as long as you want. There's some ways to get back if you only want to go a couple, but man, that is massive for me. I've never really gotten into golf. I play it a little bit. If I get invited to a tournament like yours, or Tim Tebow just asked me to go to one, I get like heart palpitations. I get nervous. Because I don't play, and then I'm embarrassed.
You're in front of 100,000, millions on a TV broadcasting games, and putting a peg in the ground and hitting that golf ball gives you anxiety.
Big time. Can't do it. I've done it enough to get terrified, because they always expect the guy that's the celebrity in the foursomes, like the ringer, like maybe like you, and I'm not, and so and then I dread it for 3 or 4 days. I can't sleep. Like it's like I get really worked up.
I love your wink. You got one. Get him on the tee box. He'll pee down his leg. That's finally, dude. You're so poised with everything else.
I just
so now I know the reason you never came to my golf tournament.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's the anxiety. Like Michigan State folks. Mark Hollis was the AD there years ago, and Tom Izzo, Mark D'Antonio, Kirk Cousins. They had a Michigan State day at Augusta National, and they asked me to go, and I said no.
Hey, if you turn that down, I'm jumping through the screen to whoop on your ass right now.
Listen to this story. I said to Mark, hey, thanks so much. I don't want to hurt the golf course. And what I was really saying is, I don't want to deal with the anxiety for the 3 or 4 nights leading up to the trip. And so I said, hey, thanks, but I'm good. And then he said, he was like, you're going. It's a great group. You're going to have fun. Who cares if you're not good at golf? No one cares. You're going to have fun. And he was demanding. I kept turning him down. And he said, too bad, we're picking you up and you're going. And I went, and I was terrified. And Izzo and Dino and Cousins could not have been more gracious. They're all, pretty good players. And we go to the first tee. I've been dreading it for a week. And I was not going to hit first. And Cousins is like, I'll go. And he goes and he tops one. I hate to say that he's a really good golfer, but he tops one, hits a ground ball. And right away I was like, I'll go next. So I stepped up there, and I never hit a driver in my life except at the range when it just goes, phoom. So I hit like a 5-wood or something and accidentally hit it down the middle. Thank goodness I did. And after that, hit some good shots and bad shots, but Augusta's very forgiving. When it's not tournament ready, it's just these really wide fairways. So even if you spray one, you can still kind of get to it. Even if you're hitting out a pine straw, it's not that bad. The tough part is the greens, but they've got these caddies that have been there since like the early 80s.
Tell you where to hit it. Right.
Telling you, they basically say, putt it like the hole. Imagine the hole's right there and the hole's over there. And they tell you to, putt it 20 feet short of the hole that's way over there. And every time I don't think I had more than a 2-putt the whole round, because I did exactly what they said. And you hit it, and up and down and around, and you're 2 or 3 feet away from knocking it in. So it ended up being a blast. We played the par 3, and that was a great trip. But normally I need to get into golf. I like the idea of it. I need to practice. I play 2 or 3 times a year. And I'm the guy, when I play, I want music on in the cart. I want you to burp in my backswing. I want you guys to have a full-on conversation. I don't want it to be quiet. You can turn around and talk about, like, just be as loud as you want to be when I'm playing golf. I'm not into
right.
Like
grinding on the fan, right? Click at a camera or something,
yeah,
right? And somebody talking or laughing.
Turn the music up as loud as you can.
You never have to worry about that with my buddies, because you'll be Led Zeppelin will be playing when you're a good old country western will be playing in the middle of your backswing.
You, dude, and it's like you and your buddies, and guys are having a couple pops and everyone's laughing. I that kind of deal I can do, but it's just that hey, do you mind playing in our outing? I'm not. It's just not my thing.
This is the first I've heard this story, and I'm sure you haven't shared it much if you have. But if you would have turned down Augusta, see, I'd crawl 10 miles over broken glass to go. But I'm like you, standing there, like, I know Cousins is a good player, but welcome to the world of us topping a ball. Here's the problem with that: getting off the first tees every day. I played like pro-ams, and I'm like, do not hit a fan on a snap hook or something. Yeah. Your hand's like shaking when you put it in, right?
Yeah.
No matter how many times you've played, it's still the same. And then you hit a good one. But then you think, well, do the people expect my group? Luckily, you're playing with friends, because then if you were 3 guys you didn't know, they think you're a ringer the whole way. You're right. And then you start chili dipping. It's like before it's over. But had you have missed that trip to Augusta, brother, we might have had to fight, because that's on the bucket list. Kirk Herbstreit joins us. Always appreciative. Hey, man, when I say, let's get to some hardcore stuff that you have to deal with all the time. But you're the commissioner of the NC2A, or the boss, whatever we call them now, or leading the Power 4, because they're usually the ones making the decisions. When I say transfer portal, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Too much, too many opportunities. One time is fine, but I don't like this. Guys going to 4 years, 4 different schools. I'm not an old guy. I've lived this for 30 years. I'm in the front row. What bothers me the most about this is you have a connection to USC, and I'm sure it wasn't always pretty when you were at USC with the competition, and and the tradition there and what you went through maybe with a position coach, whatever your story might have been there. But you kind of gritted your teeth and got there and became a starter. Same thing with me at Ohio State. But man, when I was done, I was there for 5 years. I redshirted. When I was done, man, I had I had some tough times, and I wasn't fond of some of my position coaches. But man, I learned a lot, and I got knocked down, and I had to get back up. Thought about quitting. Thought about playing baseball. Got through it, and I had a great senior year, and I made a lot of incredible relationships, and that university really impacted me. I really don't know if there's a day that goes by that I'm not appreciative of Ohio State and my time there, even though it was tough. And I never played it down in the NFL, but my experience at Ohio State, and the relationships that I have to this day with a lot of people there, that's important to me. And what I worry about is not just bouncing from one place to the other, because the grass isn't always greener. And I'm not saying some transfer portals don't work out great, because obviously they do. Look at the quarterbacks that have won the national title, and some of these quarterbacks that have done really well and gone on to the NFL. So I get it that it works out sometimes. I'm just saying, I don't like, what's the highest bid? How much are you going to pay me? You know, we have guys that started at a place and then they're going to pay me double. I'm out. And I just think they're taking short-term money and they're losing out on the potential of relationships and building roots at some of these schools and the alumni at some of these schools. And that's the tough part. And the life lessons that come along the way. The secret sauce to football isn't just win every game and win a national championship. The secret sauce is all the things you learn about team and getting knocked down and getting back up, and perseverance and humility, and your boys riding on the bus and hanging out with your guys and having a relationship for 3 or 4 or 5 years. That's the stuff that when you're done, you miss. And I just feel like guys that bounce around, they're missing out on that. So I don't mind if they allow them to transfer one time, but it makes me sick when you combine the NIL money with the portal. I just think one time's enough. And I think this whole the NIL thing is crazy too. You know, I think now guys are getting paid up to $5 million. And just a year or two ago, a guy might be being paid. I remember a guy signed out of California, a high school kid that went to Tennessee, signed for like $7 or $8 million allegedly out of high school for his entire duration. Now these guys are making that in a year almost. So where does it end? You know, and I get it's a free market and all that, but there's rules in the NFL. There's no rules in college football. Kids get unhappy, they leave in the middle of the year. So I think there's some really bad intended agents right now that are capitalizing on this situation, that are making some money, don't really care about the kids. Where are these kids where are they going to be in 10 years? Where are they going to be? Even if they make it to the NFL and they don't get that second contract, what's going to happen to these guys? You know, a lot of times guys that either don't make the NFL or go for, 2 or 3 years and end up getting cut, they're able to fall back on those relationships at whatever university that they went to. And if they played their cards right, that university embraces them, and they got a lot of alumni that want to help them out and get them into the business world or whatever it is that their line of work might be. And I worry that these kids are losing out on that. So there's a lot there in college football. Meanwhile, the popularity's never been bigger. The ratings have never been bigger. People love the sport. And so I don't have my head in the sand. I just want to be smart as we grow, with this. And I care about these kids beyond the 3 or 4 years that they play college football. I'm worried about them when they're done with football, and what are they going to do next? What's their next step in life is probably my biggest concern with what we're doing right now with the system.
You have a unique ability, I think all the great ones do, to not talk over the person who may not know sports. Let's say somebody's watching college football for the first time, and the ability to not talk under an expert, like if Belichick was watching a game, right?
Yeah.
And I think that was always a goal of mine, to make sure everybody was inclusive with the conversation. Yeah. Not too much football jargon that they don't understand, although we could teach them more. Have you ever had a situation and it may be private, I'm going to ask anyway, where a player or a coach, after something you said on College Game Day, I'm talking about on the day, you say something that they disagree with, or on a broadcast. Have you ever had a run-in with a coach or player where you guys had to debate it off the air?
My first year on the show, 1996, I said something about Florida State, and Bobby Bowden called me. Maybe it was 97 or 98. It might have been the second or third year.
Because 96 was your first year on College Game Day, correct? Right.
Yep. And Bobby Bowden's secretary called my phone, and she said, hello, is this Kirk? And I said, yes. And she said, Kirk, I have Coach Bowden on the phone, and he'd like to speak to you. And I was like, in Florida State, they were just starting to kind of crack a little bit. And I made some comments about what I was seeing. And he called me and he said, hey, Kirk, hey, boy, hey, how you doing? Hey, I just want to talk to you. He said, I heard, I didn't see the comments, but I heard about the comments. And I've always been good to you. I just wondered why you would say such things. And I was like, Coach, I didn't mean any disrespect, and so we had a back and forth. That was the first time it happened. And I held Bobby Bowden at the highest level in 1996, Absolutely. 97, 98 for his teams. I loved Florida State in our era growing up. How could you not? The Florida State-Miami rivalry was kind of at its own level. And I just loved the way he talked to the media. I loved him. I loved Bobby Bowden. To the day he died, I went down to Tallahassee for his funeral. And I really appreciated him calling me really early in my career. And it really stuck with me. I never in my life have ever tried to be ugly or disrespectful to any individual or any program. But I do have to be critical at times. And Sean, what I've done is I've always felt like if the person that I'm talking about is Bobby Bowden and he was sitting on the desk as I was talking about his program, he might disagree with what I was saying, but he wouldn't feel disrespected in how I was saying it.
Never personal, right? Never
personal. I'm just going by what I'm seeing, and I'm giving you, and I really pay attention to really how players run on and off the field, how they are. Like, I'm watching the stupidest things that maybe some people don't watch. After a quarterback throws a pick, and I'm calling a game to this day, I'm watching him. When we go to a television commercial, I'm watching him by myself. I'm just Fowler might be doing something, and I'm watching him and his interaction with his coach, with his teammates, how his teammates treat him. I'm just learning so many things. I do that all the time on a broadcast. I've done that for I have 30 years of data of watching how a player warms up, how a player responds after he scores a touchdown. That's why I was so taken back by Indiana this year. They would score a touchdown and all 11 guys were like jumping on top of each other, loving on each other. They'd wait for the lineman to come down if it was a 50-yard run, and they'd jump on top of the lineman. Man, it almost brought a tear to my eye in this day and age of guys scoring and immediately, doing their thing, going to the sideline. It was all about what I just did. And I fell in love with Indiana, and I fell in love with how they did it. I fell in love with Miami, with the receivers and how unselfish they were and the way they blocked. And so I try to celebrate the sport as much as I can, but there are times when you witness stuff when it's not done. A biggest thing that'll light my fuse is when a guy disrespects his opponent or disrespects the game. That's usually when, or he's an individual, he's trying to bring all the attention to himself in a team game. That's the thing that'll really catch my attention, and I'll get critical. Who was that?
There you go. See, pissed off that they Miami got beat. Dog's telling you, man.
That's classic. If I were calling the game when Seattle, I wasn't calling the game, but when Reek Woolen, I can't remember the game. There's so many games.
Yeah, well,
it was just in the NFC third down stop.
Cost him.
And then he started doing the talking shit to the opponent, and it cost him. dead ball, personal foul, first down.
And it was a fourth, and it was like 4th and 15. Right.
Critical. I mean,
Right.
they overcame it. Thank goodness for him. But that, if I were doing that game, it would have been so hard for me not to undress him.
And the very next play, he gets beat on the stutter.
Right. Exactly.
Touchdown.
They went right to him. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. That's the kind of really, where I have to be so careful not to just, come at him. But otherwise, even on game day, because how studio television is in this hot take world we all live in, it's a lot of people feel like you got to really say something crazy to go viral. And I've just never tried to do that. I've tried to just, if I got to be critical, I got to be critical. Like Miami Hurricanes years ago, I really went after Miami about, they're not focused on being good at football. The president, the AD, the head coach, this is a program that was once one of the most proud programs. This is after, all the stuff where they almost had a death penalty. They're trying to build it up, but they weren't committed to it. And I took them to task about it. And boy, a lot of stuff happened after that. But if you go back and listen to that, I wasn't disrespectful. I was just, here's where we are. This is what I see. Boom, 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 boom. So I don't know. I just feel like if you really pay attention and you give perspective and you give opinion and you do it in a respectful way, then I feel like it's okay. I try not to cross the line. I might do it here and there, but I try my best not to.
What's the College Game Day? Like I said, you've been on it 30 years. There's been changes. Chris is up in the booth now, and Reese Davis does such a great job, the perfect host, and the different personalities with Dez and with you and Adam, Coach Saban and Pat. What's that like? There's been, Pat brings a different perspective. It gets them going to the shirt off, which is a blast. Some may not like it, but he brings an energy, and the ratings show it. And there's you who does it. Not having Lee Corso, which is, we've talked about, I know your emotion for Coach Corso.
Yeah.
A lot of changes. Where's College Game Day now in your mind, and what's the best thing about it?
Man, it's still traveling around to the greatest atmospheres in the sport. It never gets old for me. 30 years of doing it. When I signed on to do the Thursday night stuff with Al, I thought maybe this is the time to I can't do all three of these things. It's impossible to do them all. And I thought, I was up on my contract was up with ESPN, and I thought maybe I'll just call the games and be done with game day. And then I thought maybe I'll just do game day and not call the games. I don't know if I can do all three. And that's right when Pat came into the show. And
what an energy he brings too, huh?
What an incredible blessing he's been to me because of that energy. And again, not making something stale. Not that it was, but it was like a shot in the arm for me personally, not just on air, but off the air, especially in the meetings. The guy is just one of those guys. He comes into a room and he's never in a bad mood. Like, he's a guy that just brings positivity to a room. And I'm very appreciative of that and this timing of that. So I decided to sign on for all three, not just because of Pat, just because, I knew Lee was starting to slow down, and I was excited to kind of be the leader of game day and a guy that's been there for 30 years and try to kind of help us find out, navigate these new waters when Lee Corso were to step down. And then Nick Saban came in and I love it, man. I know college football can be wacky. It can be crazy with all the stuff that goes on behind, off the field, but I still hear those fight songs. I still go to these campuses. I still see these stadiums and I get chills, and I don't think I'll ever lose that. And I think that's the reason I'm willing to try to do all three of these things at once. And so with Saban on, who better to XO with than Nick Saban? And he is so gracious with, do you know who I am? Like, you're trying to tell me about Miami's defense?
Right.
You know who I am, right? Not once has he done that to one person on the set. He's a teacher behind the scenes. I think we've kind of become his team. He really, I think, was concerned when he stepped down. One of the reasons he kept going was he was worried after 50 how many years of coaching, having a team. I think game days become his team. And I really love Coach. I really love, in a different way of a relationship than Lee Corso. I love having him with us. And so when you mix Reese, who's as good as there is, and Dez and the energy he brings.
Awesome energy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're really, really fortunate to reset and have all this these personalities and everybody kind of pulling together. So I love it. And I love working with Chris on Saturday night. Couldn't ask for a better truck that I work with.
What a pro he is, huh?
Yeah. Chris is so good. And dude, I'm like beyond blessed. And even with Al on Thursday night, I went in there, never called an NFL game.
That had to be a little nerve-wracking walking in with the GOAT.
I mean, I'm calling
great
Al
dude,
Michaels and Fred Godelli, who's done I don't know how many Super Bowls over the years. And basically they took Chris out of Sunday night on this Thursday night new package 4 years ago and put me in. Everybody else was the same except the director and me from the Sunday night broadcast. And I, I'm just trying to earn my way, and I'm deferential to a fault with a legend, usually a guy like Al Michaels. I worked with, think about this, my career. I've worked with Mike. Here's my play-by-play guys: Mike Tirico, Brent Musburger, Chris Fowler, and Al Michaels. Those are the only 4 play-by-play guys that I've worked with in my entire
little Mount
career.
Rushmore of broadcast voices, huh? That's a pretty good group. Yeah,
it's incredible, man. You know what? Like I said, just an incredible. And I've always looked at this as like, especially with Al, it's like I've never done an NFL game. You would appreciate this. In the college game, pregame, I walk around, not like I own the place, but I'm very comfortable. I know where I'm allowed to go and not go. And players are warming up. I'm out in the 50 talking with coaches. Hey, what's up? I might see a player. What's up, man? Hey, good luck tonight. Totally at ease. And NFL, I'm on the sideline. Teams are warming up. Joe Burrow's over there, Ben Roethlisberger, whoever, when I first started down there, I'm like, are we allowed to go out? Are we allowed to go out there? And NFL, they're out there 2 hours early, and getting a big time sweat and a workout. And I'm like, am I allowed to go say hello? So that's how I started. And I'll stand there until someone says, no, you're allowed to go out there. And that's what it took. It took like 5 or 6 weeks until somebody at Amazon said, you're allowed to go say hello. And I would see Richard Sherm would be out there, and Big Wit would be out there, and Tony and all these guys. They're out there. And eventually I was like, I'd take a step or two out there. So that's how it started for me, dude. Working with Al Michaels to now, oh my gosh, I have such a great relationship. We're at Houston doing a Texans game. I think they might have played the Bills this year. And I'm sitting there. We got a car pulled up, so there'll be a little barking. Hey.
That's okay. Have at it, brother. It's called the real life sound.
Yeah. So I'm just like, man, Al, I remember when you called the Astros and the Mets in the NLCS in 1986. And we're like at dinner in Houston, and he starts talking about Mike Scott and
his recall is nuts.
It's insane. And I'm like, shoot it. Can you shoot this into my veins?
Right.
And this is just, we could be at New England doing a Patriots game against the Bills, and we go out to dinner and we start talking about the Red Sox and this and that. And
he knows when Jim Rice hit a broken back double in the gap in the exact day in the hotel he stayed at.
In that regard, he and I, you asked me my hobbies. That's probably my hobbies is I have such an amazing, almost Rain Man recall of sports, and not just football, but just of everything. Cause I when I watch a game, I'm not the guy that's fun to go to a Super Bowl party. Cause
you're immersed.
I'm immersed. I'm in it. I'm watching the ground. And I did this since I was a kid. Like I listened to the broadcast. I watched the graphics. I listened to the crowd. I've just always been fascinated by it. And so to work with Al, and you know how it is when you, not so much on air, but off air, when you talk and you work and you start to learn about his wife, Linda, and his kids, and he learns about my kids and my brother and my sister. It's like, you start to become buddies. And like 4 years in, he's like my guy, you know, and I love him, and I love working with him. And I would have never thought year one that we would have gotten to that point. So when you add all this up, people are like, how in the world do you do Thursday night football? Like Al, when I get done Thursday night football, their week's over. Sherm, those guys, see you, man. See you next week. This was like pregame stretch for me. Like I'm flying from that game to game day, and game day, we do that, meetings on Friday, do all this prep, get ready for Saturday night while I'm doing that, do game day for 3 hours. Now Reese, Des, Pat, Nick, they're done. They're flying. I'm like, I'm at halftime right now. I gotta fly to another location, or I got to go call game with Fowler now, and so I do 3 things in one, and I'm never complaining. I'm just saying the love of the people. And I'm not just saying this to sound like, oh, that's the right. I'm telling you, dude, how I feel. The love of the people in each silo that I work with, and love for what I do, and the adrenaline that creates, the passion that creates, is the only way that I can sleep for however many hours and do whatever it is that I do. Because to do what I do on the air and make it, people are like, oh, that looks so easy. I'm like, the on-air stuff, that's the fun stuff. That's like if you're in 6th grade and you go out to recess and, you just ate lunch and you're just running around playing backyard football or whatever. And that's the fun part, right? Is calling the game and doing game day and doing the Saturday night. That's the treacherous, stressful, can't catch my breath is Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, just making sure I get a hold of the coordinator from the Bills. Did I get hold of, because we'll do a Zoom, but the Zoom only has in the NFL head coach, quarterback, defensive player. And so on my own, I got to chase down 4 coordinators on a short week where these guys are already jonesing because they played on Sunday and they got a game on Thursday. So when they wake up Monday, they're behind and they're trying to get caught up for a Thursday night game. And here I come in, hey man, you got a few minutes to talk about the game. And I've been blown away by how cool, because I was, again, are these guys going to know who I am? Are they going to be okay with me? And dude, every single one of them for 4 years has been off the charts. Awesome. So forthcoming, so honest. And it's like my superpower talking to the coordinators, because I feel like when I go in to do a broadcast, I know because of these conversations, I feel like I'm more well prepped than anybody to call this game because of the time that these coordinators totally just open up and talk to me about what's real. And so I don't know, I just said a lot there, but anyway, I'm
awesome.
I'm lucky to do what I do. I work in 3 different areas, and I love, like I said, I love doing
and the energy dynamic. And I'm guaranteed they all say the same about you, but Pat's great new energy and the set on game day, and then to go with a pro like Fowler who can do a 4-hour studio show and not look at a teleprompter. I mean, just phenomenal. And then you go to Al Michaels, who is the GOAT, can call every sport and his recall's sick. And then they get to work with you because you're a true pro. A couple more minutes. He's got to get on a plane. I'm going to milk a couple more questions and get him out of here with Kirk Herbstreit. Does social media affect you?
It used to.
Truth. And what was the transition to stop it?
Reps, a lot of hate. I'm a guy that's a pleaser by nature. I don't intentionally try to upset people. When I do upset people, I want to reason with them. I want to explain. Like if you got upset with me, I want to talk to you about, that's on me, man. I didn't. Maybe you misunderstood that. I didn't mean that. I'm very sorry that came out that way. Or maybe, hey man, maybe you misunderstood that. This is what I really meant. Maybe I didn't say it the right way. That's my. But when you're getting thousands of people that get upset because you think this team should be ranked ahead of this team, I just didn't get into the business.
I take it too serious, man.
Yeah. I got into this business because of what I just explained to you. I love it. I didn't get into this business for popularity or social media. I understood it's kind of part of it, but I don't do my job for social media. I do my job because I love my job, and social media happens to just kind of be part of it. But I still struggle when people, either podcasters or writers, will take something, maybe even from this interview, and they'll misconstrue a quote and they'll use it as a title to get clicks
Right.
from something I said. That really kind of bothers me and hurts me, because anybody who's listened to me for 30 years knows that, yeah, you might disagree with me, but we can disagree. you can,
You don't have to hate
USC
each other. Yeah, we
Yeah,
lost that. Right.
you can think USC is the greatest school in the country, and I can disagree with that, and that's okay. And maybe we can laugh at it when we're done. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm entitled to an opinion. I work really, really hard at what I do. You can disagree with me, but I don't. And as soon as someone name calls or gets I just block
Out.
instantly. Yeah. I don't look at mentions anymore after the Florida State stuff. That got so personal for me, and I love Florida State my whole life, but I just had an opinion that year, and I would have the same opinion about Ohio State. Ohio State fans have probably been some of the toughest fans on me because I'm objective.
One of theirs. Yeah.
Yeah. My dad was a captain there. I was a captain there. My wife was a cheerleader there. I brainwashed my kids to love Ohio State. Probably the biggest Buckeye you've ever met, but sometimes you got to treat Ohio State like you treat everybody else. And so anyway, yeah, it really used to sting me. And I think blocking mentions and just getting a lot of reps through the hate probably just kind of hardened me a little bit. So I try not to get involved in it as much as I think I was involved with it years ago.
Two quick ones, I'll get you out of here. With this game on Sunday, and I know your love, I've asked you the question in the past just to let people know about, if you had to give one up, what you say, well, college football's that's your DNA, that if you had to give something up, you'd stick with college football. I imagine thumbs up, that's still true, correct? Even though you love the NFL, that if you had to give up a college football, if they said you can only do one, I would imagine you'd stick with college football if you had to.
Before I would have said no brainer.
Right. The transition, because 4 years ago when we talked, it was no brainer. Sean, people thought you were leaving College Game Day to do the NFL. They're like, no, and you would talk to me about my passion. College football is in my DNA, but now that you've done it for 4 or 5 years, it's got to be different.
How many kids do you have?
3.
It'd be like me saying, which one do you want to get? Which one do you love the best? Which
right. Depends on the day, right?
Yeah. And I mean this. Like 4 years ago, I would have said, no, I'm never leaving college football ever. And my goal is to never leave it. I don't ever want to leave it. It makes my blood go, right? But I really, really am enjoying the NFL, and I enjoy, like I said, learning more about. When you do games and you kind of live in it, it's different from just being a fan of it. And I'm really enjoying learning more about it. And I love calling the game. And I think because of who I work with and how much I love the producer and the director and the truck and Al and Kaylee and everybody we work with in the studio side, man, I don't know if I could leave. I don't know if I could leave that.
Right.
So
I don't think you're in any danger of having to make that decision anytime soon, brother. So that's a good thing. All right. With this Super Bowl,
yeah.
Give me one thing. If you had one key for both, what do the Patriots absolutely have to do to win the game? And the same for Seattle.
I did a Seattle game, and I remember walking out of there with Al, and I said they were playing the Rams. It was that game. It was late in the year. It was an incredible game. And I thought those were two of the best teams that I saw all year. I thought and it ended up playing out that way. And in the playoffs, I think Sam Darnold has been what a story. We were talking earlier about guys that get knocked down and get back.
His resilience is his biggest strength, to be able to just deal with what he's dealt with.
And then how he says, no, I don't resent the Jets or Carolina. These are all steps along the way. God, I love both these quarterbacks. Guilty as charged. I love them both. I know them both really well. And I'm just so happy for both of these guys. I hate that one of them's going to have to lose this game. Seattle's defensive line, Mike McDonald, I think that's the best unit in the game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think turnovers are going to ultimately decide it. Which quarterback, which offense is going to get a short field is probably going to decide this. I think it's going to be really hard to get the ball at your own 25 or 30 and go down and get points against these two defenses. What Vrabel, again, a good buddy of mine, has done, dude, to think about where the Patriots have been, even with Bill, with Brady when he left, and just what are they going to do? And Mayo didn't work out. And here comes Vrabes, one of their own back. Well, let's see how, the Titans gave up on him. He's working at Cleveland last year as an analyst, and he comes in and Vrabes, he just has a way about him, a building team. And these guys, because of that bond, that's a tough nut to crack. So I don't know if I've ever been more excited, at least in the last 5 or 10 years, to watch an NFL Super Bowl game than this one, because of where these two stories and what Mike McDonald has done. Is just yesterday, Mike's in Ann Arbor as a defensive coordinator for Michigan.
Right.
Here he is, coaching in Seattle.
Now he's trying to put a ring on his finger. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. So
awesome.
I think it's a low scoring game. I think the turnovers and the short field always are important, but especially in this game. I think Seattle's just the best team. I just think they've got something really good. I think it's going to come down to that, like most NFL games, probably the last possession. And I think Seattle's going to win a 3-point game. I just think it's going to be a close game.
So funny you'd have thought we talked about it, because I lean the same way right now, unless something changes or there's some big injury between now and then. What was your first reaction when you heard Belichick isn't getting in on the first ballot?
I don't know enough about it, like with the writers and how it goes down. I know the optics of it makes zero sense. He's the best ever. I just don't understand. Did you hear anybody? I didn't really read about the people that came out.
A lot of the names.
Why did they say Why'd they say that?
I'm assuming because of the Deflate Gate, this with at least the Deflate Gate and the Spy Gate. Yet I said take 2 Super Bowls away from Bill, and he's still in the Hall of Fame, which now Robert Kraft isn't getting in as a first ballot, and which leads me to this, Kirk. Then if you're applying both those, and they're both going to get in, but you're not putting them in first ballot because of ego and grudge and pride, and you want to send a message. Don't they have to send the same message to Tom Brady? I'm with you. I think it's blasphemous and embarrassment.
Yeah.
But how do you put the greatest quarterback and maybe the greatest football player we've ever had, Tom Brady? How do you keep him out on the first ballot? Don't you have to?
If that's your logic, how do you vote him the next time?
Agreed. 100%.
Well, it's like if Barry Bonds and steroids, by the way, he was a really good player before steroids. If Barry Bonds and steroids is like, I'm not voting for him, like, why eventually vote for him? Like if Bill Belichick, it's like, that's his punishment. If that's your logic, nope. Deflate Gate, Spy Gate. Nope. I'm not voting him for. But next time I'm going to vote for him. That makes no sense to me either.
But it also validates it was you didn't take the proper protocol and steps to vote, and maybe you should be stripped of it, because it is about grudge and ego as opposed to production. Correct?
Yeah.
It bothers me, man.
Again, I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know who votes on it. I don't know how it goes down. I just know the optics of it. To me, when you've got the greatest, what I really respect, in sports is teams that like Alabama with Nick Saban. They didn't win the national title every year, but man, they were sure in the mix every single year he was there. Bill Belichick, they didn't win it every year, but when he and Tom were together, guess what? You got to deal with them. The Steelers, whether it was Cowher or Tomlin with Roethlisberger, it's like, you better deal with the Steelers. The Ravens. It's like, I just really admire the St. Louis Cardinals in baseball forever. These programs and these professional organizations that figure out the DNA. And we may not win it every year, but guess what? We're going to throw our hat in the ring every single year. To me, that is greatness. That to me, in any sport, when you got to deal with that franchise every single year, and whoever's in charge of that to me, whatever, that's how I would evaluate if I'm looking at a Hall of Fame player, coach, owner, the consistency, because you can get up there once or twice and you can go away, but you do it every single year. You're close to it. that to me is the greatest. That's why Bill Walsh, Joe Montana, like those guys that do it every year, that separates folks to me.
All right, I'm gonna get you on that. You know, the private plane you like bought for $75 million here in just a second. Right. Yeah, I'm gonna pin you down on this. It'll be way too hard to answer, but I don't care. I'm gonna pin you down. I only want one. Your greatest moment as a broadcaster.
Huh.
In your mind, if somebody said you're standing up there, we're putting you in the College Hall of Fame, whatever it is, or on your gravestone, and if they want you to give us your greatest moment, I don't care what it is. If I was giving your speech to induct you into a Hall of Fame, and you said, Sean, here's my greatest moment, this is what I want them to know, what would it be?
Well, as you said that, I mean, there's so many moments I've enjoyed. The thing that stands out to me last year was I've called the last 17 national championships in college football, and I've loved them all. But last year, not this past season, but the season before, and not because it was Ohio State, but because part of it was Ohio State. Ohio State's playing in the national championship, and they end up winning it all. And the confetti is coming down. And my son, who was a preferred walk-on on that team, in his second year, he got evaluated with cardiomyopathy, which is a heart issue. We thought he might have to have a heart replacement. It was really, really, really serious. And he survived. And right now, so far, he hasn't had to have a heart replacement, but he's on the sideline. Ryan Day kept him on the team, let him help out, almost like a coach, a student coach. He traveled every game. He was down there, jersey on. And I'm watching that confetti come down. I'm looking at my son, who is about 180 pounds. Usually he's like 225. He's on these meds to try to help his heart. And I'm watching him celebrate and the confetti come down. And I was so proud of that Ohio State team because of everything Ryan Day, after he lost to Michigan, and his own fans. He had to have an armed guard outside of his house for his own fans, 24/7 outside of his house because of the treatment he received. And they still went to the playoff and they won 4 straight. And I was so happy for Ryan Day. And I was so happy for those seniors in that team because of that story. It's another story you could do a movie on because of where they came, the fight on the field with Michigan, dancing the flag and all that stuff. And then
their domination through all the playoff, they dominated everybody.
Oh yeah, right. Dominated everybody. Tennessee, Oregon, close gaming at Texas, and then Notre Dame. And just to see all that, and I've done such a good job of being objective and holding back how proud I was of Ryan Day and Ohio State. It was almost like this release. My wife was standing there and she had some medical concerns that year. And I just think the culmination of all of it, I'm on the air and we're on the air. The confetti's coming down and we had to do an interview with Scott Van Pelt and I'm like bawling. And I'm like kind of like Dick Vermeil. I watch American Idol and I see a story, I'll cry pretty easy.
Dude, I cry at supermarket openings sometimes because I'm so happy for the people that open.
And I don't hide from that. It's just the way I'm wired. And I don't know why when you asked me that, that's kind of what stood out to me was just my wife, my son, the confetti, what Ohio State had just done. I was just really proud for them, nothing for me, just for them. And I don't know if that would have been any other school, just because when I see people overcome hardship, it hits me so hard. And to be able to see all of that, I think that just when you ask me that question, that's probably a moment that really stands out. And the other one, as far as my career, like broadcasting career, not to deflect like, oh, when I called this game, but probably Lee Corso's last show and how it went down in Ohio Stadium last year, first game of the year. They're playing Texas. I think it was like number 1 against number 2. It's a noon kick. 100,000 people at Ohio Stadium. Ohio State was gracious enough to allow Lee Corso in our game day final segment to be on, where he puts the headgear on, and the headgear started with Brutus and it ended with Brutus. And for him to have that moment, the band that usually does Script Ohio did Script Corso, and for him to have that moment of gratitude and appreciation, I really thought it was symbolic of Ohio Stadium representing the whole nation, of just how much they appreciated him and what he meant to the sport. And that one that one also stands out to me. There have been so many great games and great moments that I could talk about, but those two kind of stick out to me because they were sentimental and they meant a lot to me on a personal level.
Nobody ever that's been doing it, sitting on a studio set, has had that father-son. I don't know. It had every element of you helping him welcoming you when you first got on, just the transformation, like a parent to a kid back to a parent later on. It was phenomenal to watch, and nobody handled it better than you two, and you, with the incredible grace and respect. And I so much appreciate your time, brother. I've enjoyed.
Thanks,
we
man.
got to ESPN the same year.
Yeah.
And you're still there, and I'm not. And I loved my time there, but it's an honor to watch you all the time. I'm grateful for our friendship, and you have not changed a bit, other than the fact that, you know, you are the voice and a big shot, but you sure don't act like it. And it comes across, brother. You do.
Thank you,
your
man.
preparation and your class has been nothing but top shelf. And you're
Thank
always
you.
gracious to me with your time. And one of these times, the next time you go to Augusta, if they have a spot open, dude, I'll run there. I'll run there. And I'm not running a mile, but I'll run there, and we could snap hook it, drink a beer, and laugh the entire friggin' time. While I walk in, that same feeling of I'm driving down Magnolia Lane, right?
Oh,
so
yeah,
Well,
totally.
good on you, brother. And this has been phenomenal. And I love you, and I hope you enjoy it. Now go and get interviewed 4,000 times in Media Row at the Super Bowl, and we'll do this again, and we'll talk the offseason. I'll see you.
For sure, man. Love you, buddy. Appreciate you having me.
I love you too.
Yeah, stay in touch.
You're the best, brother. Thank you. Have a good one. Appreciate it. That's the great Kirk Herbstreit. I could have done that for a couple more hours. I mean, we could have talked, you know, he and Pat and their energy on the show, and he's not changed, folks, since the day I met him. And the path that we both kind of took to get where we were. It's a great story about him and with his audition with College Game Day when he replaced Craig James. And my path is I wasn't some star, and I was doing sidelines when I first got to ESPN, and it kind of worked out where we both got in the studio on different shows, NFL Live and him on College Game Day. What a phenomenal human being. And there's stuff that goes on in his personal life that that nobody even knows about, because he celebrates in silence, and he also works through adversity in silence. And I'm grateful for him. I love him like family. Let's bring Adam Sager back in. Sags, he's one of those guys you could sit and listen to forever. And I've probably interviewed him a handful of times each year, and he's been a friend forever. And you know what never changes is his grace and respect for the game.
Yes.
So it was awesome to have him on. And I'm not shocked that his two biggest moments had nothing to do with him, had everything to do with somebody else. So good stuff, man. Good stuff. And people are going to love it. We could have got into X of Bang posts, but I wanted to dive into some stuff that I know touched on his emotion. He's a phenomenal human being and a great friend. So
yeah, and it's, you know, being a Michigan fan, it's crazy that his son Chase ended up at Michigan. I'll never forget when that popped up.
It's almost blasted. It's your son's at Michigan, your Ohio State guy.
Right. Just talk about his other son that had the heart problem, being a quarterback at Ohio State, and then having the problem and having to step away from football. But yeah, I mean, I remember the photo of him, his wife, and his son all in Michigan gear. It's like, that's weird. But, you know, he said Chase is the last one, and he kind of paved his own path. And, you know, sometimes you end up at the rival.
What's Thanksgiving going to be like in their home forever? Even when he grows up and has kids, it's like, Dad, this is there's a last game, and this decides who's winning the Big Ten. Pops has got his Ohio State stuff on. Well, he'll be working, but you know what I'm saying is, and then the kids over there, and they're like, oh man, one's wearing, you know, what, maize and blue, and the other one's got the the scarlet colors on. And what a great conversation, man. He's awesome.
Yeah, the one of the things I took away from that was his talk about the transfer portal and the fact that he feels like these kids are, especially the ones that go team to team to team to team. Like he said, it's okay to transfer once if it's for the right reasons, but they're losing the aspect of gaining all these relationships, or even just the aspect of being on a team where they are with the same guys for 3 or 4 or 5 years and building those relationships that you have forever. So I thought that was a great way to put a different aspect, or
learning how to go.
Yes.
Learn how to go through adversity. And Segs, what I want people to know, and he doesn't have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. People getting to the point, because he's been in it 30 years, he's an old head. You know what? We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
And he's not. He's raised kids through the portal. That's why I tell people, been involved in it. If you don't stay with some adapt and adjust youthful part of it and embrace change in the game or in your life, you get left behind. And I too, there's some certain things that I'll never waver on. And he's one of them, being able to get kicked in the teeth and fight back. My life has been that way. And I've been raised by a good family who taught, but you also got to just say, it's good that the kids get paid. But there also has got to be a ceiling on, man, we got to slow this down so they understand that you just can't run to the next gig because you had to face a little bit of adversity. So in Kirk's way, he's on it every day, and he still has to sit down with an 18-year-old and interview him. So he sees both ends, and he had it in his own home. So when he says stuff like that, that's why it's not hyperbole. That he truly believes it. And I know that if you were doing a documentary or he's sitting down with him and he wasn't doing it anymore, that probably light up even the transfer portal a little more, not in a negative way, but in a way that it's okay to struggle and have to compete. And then it's okay to transfer the once because you weren't going to get a chance to compete. And I think that's a great message by him.
Well, and it also coincides with one of the first things you guys talked about was, he brought up the youth sports epidemic in the way, and it's kind of becoming the same there. It's, he mentioned my boys play all three sports, basketball, baseball, football, and especially in baseball, it's this travel. And my boys are on a travel team. We ended up having to go a town over because our town didn't really have one. And I mean, the way that coaches, and I do help, but the way that coaches go to parents at these tournaments, these big tournaments that everybody goes to, I've had multiple coaches come up to me and be like, my one son is a very, very good pitcher, a very good player, very good shortstop. I mean, they're trying to poach my son away from his team. They're 9 last year.
Yeah.
9U baseball last year. And they're being like, hey, do you want to come over here? We can do this for you. We got this. We got this. It's like,
see it every day in Texas, brother. With
the
baseball, right. Every day.
And that's how I know, like with football, it's coming. Like if my son continues to get better as a quarterback, my little nephews, one was a quarterback. The private schools close to us wanted them to come there. And it's just like, how did we get here so fast? And it feels like it's been really, really fast, where it's went from the pros to college, is now exploded with all the NIL. So now we're getting into high school and youth sports. And he says it's an epidemic, and it's lost its way. Sports in general, I feel like, has lost its way under the professional level. And I thought he spoke on that really, really well.
Recruiting 9-year-olds to come to the select league. You know what I'm saying? So what happens when they're 12 and then when they're 15? Like you said, it can be a good thing if it's done right. Just like 7-on-7 can be a good thing, but it can also ruin a player because it's not real football. Just like the transfer portal right now and NIL is not real life.
Right.
An 18-year-old shouldn't be making more than the coach who coaches him. You just shouldn't. Okay. But they should be making something if they're selling jerseys. But there's got to be some sanity. And right now, college football is insane.
That's what we always talk about. Really, I remember we had the conversation so many times, like jersey sales, or you get a portion of ticket sales that go spread to everybody equally on the team. We went from that to 360 degrees the other way. Like, holy shit, you can get money from anywhere, anytime, any person that wants to walk into your school and say, here's $5 million for this player. They can get it now. It's crazy.
Well, Segs, before we have a couple more questions and wrap this up, let me tell you about Augusta Precious Metals, a partner, a teammate, a friend, and somebody who's making a difference. And I'm so grateful for Augusta Precious Metals. SeanBuysGold.com is where you're going to go, or text Sean, SEAN, to 35052. I share the story as often as I can. We all go into the grocery store. This is real, folks. We go into the grocery store. Obviously, the dollar and the value or the lack of, and the struggles with money that people are going through every day. Businesses closing, businesses opening, people are excited and they're bummed. And then you go into the grocery store and say, I'm shopping for my holiday party or getting Super Bowl party. Imagine what going into a Super Bowl party is going to cost you to just, we're going to cook this, we're going to grill this, we're going to buy this. And before you know it, you got to ask people for donations at your front door because the prices of groceries keep going up and your salary stays the same. So you got a nice account over here, your bank account, and they keep going up and year after year after year. And you're like, I'm losing here. My bank account says this, my account says this, and it continues to go down. Meaning I'm losing value because I'm making this, but groceries go up, so I'm spending more and nothing's moving. Well, when it comes to your future, your retirement, your security and peace of mind, Augusta Precious Metals is the best I've ever been around. And I've done deep dive into precious metals because I kept getting told that you should jump into this, saying, nah, I don't want to. Is it a gimmick? Is it going to go fluctuate? Well, the value of gold and silver right now is through the roof, and it's not going the other way. We got a $40 trillion debt in this country. So if you want, and think about this, when you get into gold and silver, you're not getting taxed on your IRA or your 401k. Isn't that a nice thing with gold and silver? And it's not just preserving what you want to make or how your account goes, but it's also preserving what you have, what you've already made. And that's where Augusta Precious Metals come in. I'm just asking you to go in there, take a look at the guide, let them educate you, which is their number one priority, educate you. So you're creating, whether it's now or you're going to retire in the future, or you're in the middle of it and you say, how do I preserve this? Not just preserve confidence, but preserve my wealth and to keep it. Gold and silver is off the charts. Just go in and check it out and come back. If you come in, it's not a gimmick, trust me, and you come out of it and say, nah, that's not for me, then that's fine. And I can appreciate you and respect it, but then you didn't do a deep enough dive. So check it out, and Augusta Precious Metals will walk you through. There's no sales gimmicks. There's no, we got to do this to do this. They just want to educate you. And then if you're going to do it, the best place to do it is there, because they are going to give you every opportunity to create confidence, peace of mind, and security with gold and silver, precious metals, tangible assets. SeanBuysGold.com or text Sean to 35052. Get educated and then jump on in. Because I was late to this, I'm not anymore, because I finally found the proper partner, the partner that educates, and the partner that gets it and has given me more confidence as we move ahead. Because I'm telling you, if you don't jump in now, you don't want to be the person. We've all missed out on an investment, said, I wish I'd have bought something there. You got an opportunity at Augusta Precious Metals to do that now and preserve what's yours, but also give you security and confidence as you work towards retirement. I don't care if you're 30 or 70. Gold and silver are sitting in a real good position. Augusta Precious Metals is there to help. Augusta Precious Metals, it is SeanBuysGold.com or text Sean to 35052. Hit the link in the description and roll on it. And I think you'll be grateful. And you don't have to thank me later, but your confidence and security in your retirement will. Augusta Precious Metals, SeanBuysGold.com. Thanks.
Sean, I want to ask you something you asked him, and I thought it was very interesting, his answer. You asked him about the off-air run-ins, about something you said on air, and he brought up Bobby Bowden, called him, and it was his first or second year on College Game Day, and Bobby came to him and said, I treated you well. Why would you say this about us? Or why would you say this about Florida State? If you had a run-in where a player, professional, college, coach, whatever, come to you after something you said on, you and John Clayton together, or something you said on NFL Live, do you have a story like the Bobby Bowden story?
How much time you got? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Most of them, because sakes, because like Herbstreit, and I've made a goal of this, and I think I achieved it for the most part, is being critical or being complimentary without kissing ass or being personal. I never did. And I've had more come up to me and say, Sean, I was watching Michael Strahan. We were on the standing in New York City on the street, me and him, and he came up to me. I was broadcasting, he was playing. And I got a great message from him when he got the job at Fox. And I don't know, and I think he remembered. He sent me a text and it said, Sean, the things you did in your broadcast career are helping me in my start in mine. That's just kind of paraphrasing, which I consider that a great compliment. But we were standing on the street, and I was critical of the Giants at one point, and he was playing. And we were standing there and laughing. He goes, dude, I watch you all the time on your NFL Live. And he said, and when I'm watching you, you're talking about me. And I'm saying, no, that's not the case. And by the end of what you're saying, I've looked at you and I thought, he's right. He said that to me. And I'm like, and we laughed about it. So it wasn't critical. And I thought he was going to get into it and say, Sean, we're
right.
4 down. And then he was like, man, I was believing it. And I said, man, he's talking about me. And by the end of it, you had me convinced that what you were saying was exactly right. So I took that. So there's plenty of good that comes from it. There's a couple of them. And it was a joke. I was the year the Baltimore Ravens, and I always told ESPN, because I was on the set at SportsCenter and NFL Live and doing it with my guy. And just a sidebar, there's nobody I miss more in broadcasting than John Clayton and our love for each other. We got after it. We never scripted NFL Live. or the 4 down segment. I still believe that our original was the best in debate, and I would put us up against anybody, and that's not bragging. It's just a fact. And John was the star of it, regardless of what people think. And I didn't bully John. John bullied me plenty. Trust me.
We got after it. The same perfect relationship as Herbstreit and Corso. That
no question.
They would
get
after it when they had that, but then also come together.
We loved each other.
Yeah.
Yes. And our friendship is, and he was the first guy that called me when I left ESPN. But when Kirk was talking about it, I was about to say it felt like John and I, but that's his thunder. And I wanted him to talk about his relationship with Lee. But I love John. I miss him every day. Chris Mortensen's the guy who called me when John died. I was coaching a football camp, and he left me a message: "Get a hold of me as soon as you can." I walked off the field in between practices, and I called him, and I was lost it in my truck when I called him. And then we've lost Mort since. So it's been that was a tough time. So people have this misconception. John and I, none of it was scripted, none of it was fake, but we loved each other going in. We went on there and beat each other's brains in on the air. And when we got off, we were best of friends and respect. John knows football. Nobody worked hard. If you said, "John, I need to do an interview and I need you to give me the shirt off your back. I need it by tomorrow, but I'm 2,000 miles away," he would have done it. So my love for John Clayton was, you can't measure it. You just can't. There's no analytic that measures it. And I miss him every day. And I wish he was back, because I'd love to have his and I debate now going against the rest of it to see, because I think it was fair. And we both said stuff that was like, wow, they said that. And people still to this day, "Oh, you bullied John." No, John got me plenty. Don't listen. He hammered me plenty, and rightfully so. Love him. 2 things. I was doing the Baltimore Ravens, and I always told ESPN that I'm on the set. I don't want to hide behind the set and be a pussy. That if I'm going to talk about him, then you send me out to do the features every week on college, on NFL, not NFL Live, Countdown, when Berman, the group. So I'd go be one of those guys who would go and fly into a feature and interview the team and do. They were struggling offensively. I don't think they had a touchdown in the first 4 or 5 games that year. And I criticized them. And it was a game when Ray had missed a handful of tackles, and Ray didn't ever miss tackles. And I'll never forget walking in on maybe it was a Thursday or Friday. I walked in, I'm coat and tie, and Siragusa and Ray are in the locker room, only 2 in there. I walk in, Siragusa, dude, "What are you doing here? Critic, boom." And then I walk over to him, he comes over and gives me a hug. "I'm just kidding." And first I'm like, damn, now Siragusa, that's a mismatch. Siragusa and Ray against me. And they loved me. We hugged, and they understood. Right. It wasn't personal, and it never was. The one time, and I regretted it, but it wasn't in a hurtful way, was one of Herbstreit's teammates, Desmond Howard. And I was doing the Sports Center, and we were doing a show on, it was kind of an end of the year, not a gimmick show, but you know how the end of the year, funny things that happen in sport. I can't remember what the segment was. And I got on there, and it was something that happened that made you laugh, but Des got hurt on the play. And I had so much respect for him, and I love him on College Game Day. And I said something, I kind of made light of the play because it was that type of segment, but the way I said it. It was not in a hurtful way, but I think for him it came across because he went through it, and I wasn't laughing at him, but with him. But when an injury came after it, it was probably misplaced the way I said it, but it wasn't to talk about the injury, it was talk about the play that led to it, right? And it kind of rolled in. And I know it's hard to describe, but I got a message from him. And it was a very heartfelt message by him, and said, I went through what I went through to get to that point, however he described it. And I took it to heart, and I reached out, apologized. I said I didn't, just like Herbstreit, we had a conversation and never had a problem again. And it wasn't at Des, it was the situation, because it was one of those segments. And you know what? And it wasn't tasteless, but it was probably should have left that highlight out of it because of the result. And Des was exactly right. And I let him know, anytime that happens, please reach out. And he did. And I've told that to anybody, because I do want to know if there's something that comes, because you never know with the passion. Nowadays, guys say stuff and they'll be offensive to everybody, that everybody'd be calm. So I did. And I loved him for the message, because I learned the value of understanding the situation of the call or what you're saying. And there wasn't clicks going on then, because the social media wasn't a big deal, right? It was just kind of getting rolling. So, and I apologize. And Des was spot on because of the situation. And he wasn't overly sensitive. It was just the situation called for, and I deserved that message from him.
Yeah, just kind of
in a way that,
little bit.
Yeah, I did, and I sure, because you didn't want to. I don't want to have somebody laughing on SportsCenter at somebody else's expense, right? And I think it was taken wrong, but he had every right to reach out, and he should have, because it was his opinion. I respect it, and I love him to this day. And his career is aside from being a Heisman winner, he's been phenomenal in the broadcast world. So that was, and there's others, but most of it is guys reaching out. I remember Jim Johnson, the great defensive coordinator in Philadelphia, Segs reached out to me once. I called him. We were getting ready to do a game with Philadelphia, and like Herbstreit said, you got to call the coordinators. I'm sitting in the ESPN newsroom, and I called him. I said, Jim, Sean Salisbury. Yeah, Sean, what's going on? And at the time, Benny Green had offered me, there was talk that I was going to go coach because he offered me the quarterback coach job in Arizona. And Jim Johnson said, Sean, what the hell are you doing? But it was an F-bomb, right? What the fuck are you thinking about? I'm saying, Coach, what do you mean? He goes, sit your ass in that coat and tie and stay right where you're at. I go, you don't want to do this. And that's how it started. At first, and I'm like, damn, because anybody that doesn't know, Jim Johnson, in my opinion, is one of the 5 greatest defensive coordinators we've ever had. Loved him. And when you think football coach, Jim Johnson, and not Jimmy Johnson, Cowboys, him too, but right. Jim Johnson, football coach, was everything you loved about him. You know, the guy that drove you crazy but he'd blitz you, and if you played against him, it was miserable, right? And he said it, and then we laughed. He goes, no, man, you'd be great, and the rest of it. But when he started off, it was serious. I'm like, damn, I just called to talk about your defense played against this quarterback this week. And he said, don't you dare. You don't want to get into this shit. You got all that. You're sitting there. You get to talk about it. You don't have to do this. Steady did. He said, stay your ass right there with a coat and tie on and stay away from this. And we laughed and got into it. So those are some of my favorite times. I remember when Brian Billick, when they drafted a defensive player, when Brian was the head coach in Baltimore, I called him up and said, why? He goes, well, our defense is really good. And Brian wanted to score 700 points in a season, right? And he drafted, I think it was McAllister, the defensive back, I'm pretty sure, from Arizona. And I said, why? And they built that defense, and then it paid off, and he won a Super Bowl. It might have been the next year. I can't remember the timeline. But, you know, in talking to coaches and getting insight of why they're doing it, and then to see it come to fruition that offense was just getting by and defense was dominant, and that's how they won their Super Bowl. And he thought, well, that's the beginning. That felt like the beginning of Baltimore's domination with great draft picks and Ozzie Newsome. So there's a lot of situations, but for the majority of it, Segs, my favorite thing is I never got to hide behind the desk because ESPN did a great job of making sure, and I made that if I'm going to criticize you or compliment you, I'm also going to show up and show my face without being able to hide behind a desk. And I think we have too much of that. Guys, hot take artists aren't showing up to go nose to nose or sit there and say, here's why I said it. It makes you more real. And I think that was important in my career. And I still do it that way.
For sure. And then the last thing I want to hit on that he talked about in bringing it back to the Super Bowl. He said he thinks the Seattle defensive line is the best unit in the game. And it kind of, you know, took me for a loop. I was kind of like, whoa, like, you know, and then I started thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, that defensive line, you know, the starters, DeMarcus Lawrence, who's, you know, towards the end of his career, spent all that time in Dallas as one of the great players. Leonard Williams has kind of moved around a little bit, but found his spot there in Seattle. Nwosu.
Another guy who left the Jets, right? Yes. Wasn't he a Jets guy? Yeah.
Yep.
And a Trojan. There you go.
Boy Maffa, who's getting ready to be a free agent, and he could be making some money from this run. Jerron Reed has been there a long time. And then the rookie, the first-round pick, Byron Murphy Jr. So it's not a big name defensive line when you look at the depth and everything, but they have good depth. And I think he's right the more I think about it, that Mike Macdonald, what he does defensively, has got this unit playing at such a high level that it's going to make it tough for Drake May, who has struggled because he's faced some of the top defenses, and it doesn't get easier in the Super Bowl, that this defensive line can wreck this game for the New England Patriots and win this game for the Seattle Seahawks.
I think the Seattle Seahawks front is the best unit in the game.
Yeah, especially when you add in the linebackers like Ernest Jones. And
that's what I'm saying. I do. I mean, and that's not to take anything away from New England. They're pretty friggin' good too. And then I started thinking about, well, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and the Darnold Smith and Jigba. What a great combination that is. And then both teams want to come downhill and hit you in the mouth in the run game, right, with a little bit of wiggle. But I think that the biggest key for that going in right now is can you find a way to impact on offense that front seven and get them playing on skates where they don't get to, and they're good against both the run and the pass. So I 100% agree. And I think on the other side that I don't think you can get out of this game without being a successful throwing team if you're New England. I think they're going to have, And Herbstreit said it, and I've told you this, it's going to be really hard to go 80 yards 4 times against the Seattle and grind out 15 play drives. They're going to embarrass you. There's going to be 3 and outs. You're just going to have to deal with 3 and outs. Drake May is going to have to play like he did all regular season. They're not going to win the game throwing 15 times. If they do win it that way, it will tell you that Seattle's front 7 missed the team bus. I don't think you can line up and rush for 200 yards on them either. You get my point?
I know.
Agreed. Agreed 100%. Right. The short field will be huge playing on their side if you're New England. And this isn't to diminish. New England Patriots have proven all year, even though their schedule, but through the playoffs, that they've played the best at the right time in the AFC. But they're going to have to play their best game. We see it against Buffalo at times. They are going, because they're facing an offense that's explosive and a defense that can wreck a game. And you can't be one to put it this. Let me make it easy. You cannot be one-dimensional and beat Seattle. You just can't. Even if your defense plays out of their mind, if you're one-dimensional against the Seahawks, you will lose. I think it's the first team that gets the 3 scores, 21, 23, 3 touchdowns and a field goal, 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals. I think it wins the game. We're looking at, and I know we'll break it down more. It's like a 20-17, 20-16 type game for me. But both offenses are going to deal with front 7s and defenses that if you're having an average day and the pressure mixed in, it can be a long 60 minutes for you in this game.
Yeah, and we will continue to break it down starting tomorrow. We'll really get into the nuts and bolts of what makes each team go. Does the Zach Charbonnet injury, which didn't affect them too much against the Rams, does it affect them a little bit more against this New England defense that is really good under Mike Vrabel, that throws a lot of different things at you? Will they miss an aspect in Zach Charbonnet? We'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll look at these quarterbacks more in depth and their receiving options. You talked about Smith and Jigba and what he's been able to do this year. What does New England and their receivers have to do against a good secondary, just a good defense overall in Seattle to get this win on Sunday? So got a lot to talk about, and I'm sure there'll be some other stuff that happens. We got the NBA trade deadline. James Harden traded again. Maybe we can hit on that real quick.
Well, you can guarantee Cleveland's not winning a doggone championship now.
Yeah.
I can guarantee you that.
Yep.
There's no doubt.
That's James Harden's MO. Go somewhere and not win a championship, including all his years in Houston that we, followed them pretty damn closely. All right. Thanks to Bailey and Laura. Obviously, thanks to Kirk Herbstreit for giving us over an hour of his time today. He was great. That's a must listen. Go back and listen to it again, because I'm sure there's something you missed the first time that you'll hear in the second time and be like, man, I'm glad I listened.
When he was telling the master story, just saying, I'm telling you right now, unless somebody's unhealthy, I almost ended the interview saying, I'm coming to kick your ass right there on the tarmac at your place. Yeah. Oh, dude, I'm like, what? unless your loved one's having, your wife or your girlfriend's having a baby in the middle, or somebody's unhealthy and you've got to be at their side, they got to get to stepping, because I'm going no matter who the group is, no matter how many times I snap hook it, no matter how many times I piss down my leg because I'm at 12 trying to hit it on the green. I'm going. But he's not kidding. Dude, I invited him to my turn for a decade plus. And he did not want to go because he didn't think he was a celebrity. Yeah. And he's the #1 voice of college football. I said, dude, do I need to fly and come pick you up and force you to come here and pour a beer down your throat so you're relaxed?
Maybe that's what it was. Maybe
I even told him, I said, you can ride around in a cart and just go laugh and see all the guys. And you don't even have to hit a shot. Just come, because and so, but the Augusta National, because I never heard that story. I'm like, with that group and going to Izzo, you guys having a blast, you get your ass on a plane to Augusta National and go play. And I'm sure now, as he said, he's glad he did. But great story, man. So gracious with his time, and I love him. He's family, brother.
Yeah, must listen, and we'll get him on again. We've had him on a handful of our years together that, through college football.
Never disappoints, right, Segs?
And everything. Yeah, he's always a great listen. So go to YouTube, like and subscribe. You can see the interview there. You can check it out on Rumble. Go anywhere you have social media. Unpaved is on there. YouTube is at Unpaved Sean Salisbury. We'll be back tomorrow. Start breaking down this Super Bowl, and we'll get you ready. And I think we're going to have Coach JB on Friday again, right?
Hopefully, we sure are.
Yep. We'll get a last-second breakdown with Coach JB as well in a couple days. So great show today. Thank you for listening and watching. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central. Peace.
UNPAVED, Sean Salisbury here to bring an authentic, real stuff to you. Hardcore opinion.
Sean Salisbury, a great NFL analyst, a former NFL quarterback.